Yes, it's a big parking lot out by the soccer stadium.
Yeah, back in soccer.
Yeah.
I used to take my classes there.
Oh yeah.
They still go there.
So is the purpose of this wall just to hide the mechanicals?
Yes. Yeah. Good question. Yeah.
Sounds like it's not really secure.
I know. Yeah, it's just like visual screening.
Yeah. How often are you replacing the roofs, like the roof system?
Not
due to the
very.
salt?
These
Does it affect the vinyl?
No, not as much as it affects the metal. Like
Okay.
metal around here just gets chewed up.
Yeah.
Like it's an extremely corrosive environment.
Yeah. So I imagine this is mostly like salt buildup.
Yeah, yeah, all this stuff. I think this is like, you know, moss and crap that has grown and just died. That's what it looks like.
These are aluminum, right?
Yeah, yeah, some kind of aluminum with some kind of coating. Patrick, do you want to talk about the PVC roof, like the cool roof concept?
Oh, is this PVC?
Yeah. So this is what you'll see on every roof, you know, every newish roof on campus. Anything that's built in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
It's made by a company called Sarnafil, but there are a few companies that make it, and you know, it's white to reject as much of the heat as possible. It's pretty darn durable, and when they put this stuff together, they just melt it together. They have these like, you know, heat gun devices that they just melt the seams together, so it makes a continuous surface. And
What a great job, because it doesn't have to be perfect, you know?
Yeah,
It's not like it
yeah,
has-
exactly.
How could you go wrong?
Just got to melt it. But
Well, here's another thing though, same with the panels. You're going to get more dirt collection and dust and fog, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That should be sloped too.
Oh yeah, it's all like you gotta have proper slope to get to those drains there. So that's what takes the water out of the building, and you see everything slopes to those drains. You have them every once in a while, and you know, some of the roofs aren't done as well as others, where you get spots that are just continually pooled with water, and over time, like that can deteriorate and start to leak and needs to be addressed.
Is this part of the Brin complex?
Bren? Yeah, this is still Bren Hall we're on. Yeah. So this is the lab section that we're on, and that's the office wing over there.
Is there a membrane underneath this, like a waterproof membrane, or is this it?
This is it. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's warranted for 20 years, so if anything goes wrong with it, you can, you know.
It's free floating, right? It doesn't adhere to the...
I don't know. I think they do use some kind of adhesive, but it's not mechanical, so they're not penetrating it.
Right. What are these? All these patch circles?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
Got a leak.
This building actually did have a leak at one point, so it could have been part of an investigation, right? Like pull a little bit off, like is it wet under here, like, and it was literally like the location that we're in. I'm kind of surprised they didn't take the solar off when that happened, but. So okay, let's head back downstairs. We'll catch up with the guy down there, and we'll go to the Ocean Science Building.
Okay, cool.
What's this little hanging?
I don't know.
Step or
I've never noticed that up here. So
It's probably a
Fold
bat
out-
cage.
Is it a step ladder?
Back cage.
Oh, maybe bats hanging it. You think?
Bat hanging. Most
maybe
That's what it makes sense.
that wasn't up here last time I was here. So someone
Well,
put
it's
that
not
up here recently.
really a cage, but a place for bats to hang.
Bat condo.
That kind of
Didn't think Magic Spot
Definitely not. Can't even look at them or they'll make you trip.
Would you say that tree, golden?
Golden.
In the courtyard?
Golden rain tree.
Did you look it up?
Yeah.
How'd you do it?
There's an app that you point at any plant.
Cool.
And if it's in the database, it'll tell you what it is.
I was gonna text
always
the.
100% accurate.
Yeah.
But it the closest one we found. But you said it was a China tree, right?
Yeah, China tree or golden.
I made that up. I said Chinese maple, but I'm probably wrong.
Yeah, no, it was a China tree.
Because one of the sub names or what it's known as
Oh, maybe that's what stuck in my head.
Do you guys have issues with the coral trees?
called
Like what type?
Oh, well, I know their roots are known for, breaking
Oh
stuff.
yeah, I mean they do get gnarly.
Yeah.
These are the biggest ones I've seen on campus though.
Giant.
One thing we talked about the ventilation, we talked about the cooling. We didn't talk about the heating in this building. So they're in that penthouse room we walked by. There's just a natural gas boiler. It's like 2 million BTUs per hour, and it basically just sending heat hydronically to the air handlers for heating the labs, sending hot water to the radiant panels in the offices that we talked about. There's a separate little domestic water heater, but that's what you see in most buildings on campus. Is although we have the call it a district cooling system with the big underground chilled water loop, we don't have the same thing for hot water yet. We've got a few little buildings in one zone connected, and that's going to grow over time. But the way that it is now, every building's got its own boiler system of varying sizes depending on the need in the building.
What's the fuel for those?
Natural gas.
Natural gas.
Yeah. So you see, like that's the big natural gas pipe that's going from the campus system into the building, and that little bell-looking thing on top is a pressure regulator. So the campus gas is at about 7 psi, but the boiler wants something like 1.5. So that'll regulate the pressure for the building. Interestingly, here's a green building thing. As of 2019, no new buildings built on any UC campus can use natural gas for heating. So no more boilers in buildings like this. We're gonna have to do it all with electricity. So the building that we'll walk by probably at the end, the classroom building that's under construction right now, it's the first big all-electric building that we've done. So I'll kind of explain how we're doing that when we get over there.
So what kind of heating systems and cooling will they have that are electrical? We've been doing it. We've been looking at heat pump systems. Will be a commercial grade heat
Yes,
pump.
a water source heat pump. So think like the chiller that we saw, or that I pointed to on the roof, again, next to the boiler in that big room. It's a big chiller, and what it's doing is it's extracting heat from the water that's being circulated throughout the building and also connected to the loop throughout the whole campus. And what's it doing with that heat? It's dumping it into that cooling tower, and the cooling tower is reducing the temperature of the water that's running through it through evaporation, right? If you go from water to water vapor, you give up a lot of energy and you cool down the water that's left, and that goes back to the chiller and basically keeps the thing with a heat sink, somewhere to send the heat. So similar concept is what we're doing at these all electric buildings, where we've got what's called a heat recovery chiller, where instead of sending the heat that's pulled out of the cooling water to a cooling tower and getting rid of it through evaporative cooling, it's sending it to basically another compression cycle that's boosting the heat up even more, that's then using it for the heating in the building. The only way to really do that effectively though is to have your heating loads and your cooling loads matched up, and kind of the same energy needs on both sides. So if you think about like a really hot day where that heat recovery chiller is going to be making a lot of cold water for the building because you need a bunch of air conditioning, a bunch of bodies in there. Basically, you're not going to need any heat. So what do you do with the hot water? You got nowhere to put it because that heat has to go somewhere. So it only works because that building is connected to the chilled water loop. So they can basically, on a really hot day, they don't run that chiller. They just take cooling from the loop. On a really cold day where they need that heat, then they run that heat recovery chiller and they heat the building with it. So you don't have to have a one-for-one relationship if you have a bigger system that you can either take hot or cold from.
And they can't just let the heat out, the hot air out?
If you had a cooling tower in addition to that system, you could do it as like a standalone deal.
Right.
So it gets tricky though.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of expensive equipment.
You just can't let the hot air go up.
Well, it's in the water is the thing. So yeah, so you got this big chiller system that wants to sit there and just be cranking away, making cold water, but then the heat has to come out the other side. Right. Yeah, it's not like your like window AC unit where you just reject the heat to the outside. On the water source heat pump, you need to put that hot water somewhere. So you can either send it out through a cooling tower, or you can send it into a building heating system, or heat a pool with it, or do something else with it at the same time. The best case scenario is if you have a big campus-wide cooling loop and a big campus-wide heating loop, and one of those big plants that can do heating and cooling at the same time, and then you get some big storage tanks. They call them thermal energy storage tanks. And you can, like on a really cold day where you need a lot of heat and not a lot of cooling, you can charge those things up with cold, right? Maybe at night, and then use it during the day, and vice versa. So that's kind of the direction that campuses are going, is all electric, and it starts to get pretty complicated and pretty expensive.
Yeah, especially because you got to integrate it with what's here too. Right?
Yes.
Does that mean your electricity bill is going to go up?
Definitely,
Past the
yes.
figure mark, maybe 2.
Well, that's a really good point. It's like, yeah, it's a lot of power. It's like, and not only your bill, but then you start to look at, all right, where all the UC campuses are. Municipalities are starting to pass codes like this too, no natural gas connections.
Right, yeah.
Can the electrical grid handle that much more load, right? I mean, we've got it's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
It's a big campus, and it's just one.
More solar, more wind.
One customer, more solar, more wind, more batteries, yeah. More local resources.
Yeah.
Let's keep walking. We'll cut through this courtyard, go next door.
Yeah, see that last one, 62, I couldn't get it to charge. Get it down. 6 went down.
This is a visitor center. That's kind of a cool room. They've got they got the original LEED plaque, that black one there, and then this building, it was LEED Platinum. That's the highest rating you can get in 2002. Then a few years later, it went through the LEED for existing buildings rating system, certified platinum, and then again just a few years ago. So it's been platinum certified 3 times. I think it's the only building that's performed at that level. So, I mean, it definitely is a high performance building, but again, it's a lab. So compared to, an office building or whatever, it's going to use a lot more energy, but compare it to other labs and it does really, really well.
Yeah.
And so I haven't really talked about like interior materials. This building used a lot of like bamboo and cork and high recycled content materials in the computer labs and offices, and so a lot of attention on the finishes that went in. That's part of LEED is.
They're going to try to change one of the decommissioned oil platform into a green lighthouse, or it's like a brainstorm session.
There's all kinds of crazy ideas that come through this building.
I think you gotta just decommission them, leave them out there and see who goes out and does
Yeah,
something with it.
yeah.
You could have some. Yeah, I was just thinking water drugs.
We go home. Put some apartments out there on the oil platform.
So over the years, like you've seen a lot of the landscaping get turned over from turf to something else, like native grass or whatever. I know that y'all are dealing with similar things at City College, right? People want to turn that big lawn into something like this. I mean, you
Grounds guys hate it because lawn's so much easier to maintain. than
yeah,
this kind of stuff.
and people use, there is a value to it, right?
Yeah.
Places like that where I walk my dog there, like
Humans value
Yeah.
grass a lot.
so that's been a big part of the calculation is, all right, like what is the space used for? Has it historically been used for? Is it something that people recreate on? Do we have enough of it nearby? So this is